Good evening, friends, and a warm welcome to the WAF Gurus webinar episode 24. We simply call it the WAFinar, powered by Abbott. Today, we shall discuss the issue of keeping workforce safe and businesses running in the next normal. And here I would request Team WAF to share the program details. You are watching the WAF Gurus webinar 24 of the WAF Gurus live series, which was started last year and in the very first week of the lockdown itself, which was the month of March. Within the next 6 months, in the year 2020 itself, the viewership crossed the 1 million mark. This webinar, as we'd like to call it, is powered by Abbott. And it is happening at a time when life is nearly back to normal after the lockdown, with people on the go, and they've almost dropped their guard, except for that mask that they wear around their face, covering their mouth and nose. So the topic that I've mentioned before is keeping workforce safe and businesses running in the next normal. And to discuss this, we have an impressive lineup of speakers. The first, Ketan Krishna, Head of Human Resources, RentoMojo. After completing his post-graduation from MDI Gurgaon, he started his career with the Aditya Birla Group in 2006, where he was assigned the retail business that was at its concept stage. The company grew to various stores across India. After this, he took on the challenge to build people's practice at Utsav Fashion. After that, he took up an assignment with IDFC First Bank. He was leading the HR function for the rural and retail asset businesses, and he was a part of the business expansion phase where they scaled up from 500 to 5,000 people in just 2 years. Right now, he takes care of people's function for a young startup, RentoMojo, the market leader in rental ecosystem. He is bullish on the future of HR tech, and he's on the advisory board of a few HR tech companies. He also happens to be a life and career coach. Next we have is Captain Pranav Thakur, Head of HR Renault India, an alumnus of Indian Institute of Management, Lucknow, and a distinguished officer in the Indian Army. He's had a commendable experience in managing the entire gamut of leadership, human resource management, training and development, risk and change management, and operations management. His passion to represent the struggles and sacrifices of the armed forces drove him to publish his bestseller titled Those Unknown. He has been awarded by the World HRD Congress with the Top HR Minds of India Award. Manmohan Malik, Group Head, Human Resources and Industrial Relations, ORIX India, and ex-LRI HR Management alumnus, a neurocoach for human development, holder of multiple licenses and certifications in strategic L&D and HR consulting, backed with a PGD in tourism management and a bachelor's degree in commerce honors from premier institutes in Delhi University. Manmohan has compelling skills in business, human resources, leadership coaching, and L&D. He has conceptualized high-impact projects in the financial, transportation, and lifestyle businesses in organizations like ORIX, American Express, East India Hotels Group, Cox & Kings, and Thomas Cook. He's been a recipient of acclaims on national and global level. His recent accomplishment is leading ORIX India to the Great Place to Work recognition for a second year running and being acknowledged as a sustainable HR leader and HR superachiever at the World HRD Congress in the last 2 years. Dr. Mohan Ravuru, Director of Medical and Scientific Affairs, Abbott Rapid Diagnostics, where he oversees the infectious diseases portfolio for emerging markets. A physician researcher with over 15 years of experience in vitro diagnostics industry. His first foray into this was with Becton Dickinson Research and Development under Immunization Division. He's performed basic clinical and translational research in immunology, infectious diseases, and molecular biology. He's worked before for Grifols and GSK Biologicals, and beyond the medical degree, he has a master's degree in immunotherapy from National University of Singapore and a master's degree in technology management from University of Queensland, Australia. Sunil Mehra, General Manager, Abbott Rapid Diagnostics, who joined here last year and is a seasoned professional with 26 years experience across businesses and countries from sales and marketing, innovations and research and development with a successful track record. He completed his master's in business administration from Faculty of Management Studies, Delhi University. He also has a master's and bachelor's degree in pharmaceutical sciences from BITS Pilani. A crucial member of Abbott's COVID-19 task force, he has good knowledge on how to handle COVID outbreaks in India. He started his career with the Ranbaxy Research Laboratories and joined GlaxoSmithKline Consumer Healthcare in various leadership roles for last 23 years. He excels in creating organizational structures and motivating the teams to achieve stretch targets. He's successfully handled holistic integration of acquisitions and has built corporate image through high impact partnership with government and other industry bodies. And last but not the least, Anuj Guglani, the founder and CEO at World Auto Forum, which connects the auto and mobility industry in 125 countries. He's also worked with Honda Cars and General Motors. Last year, he launched the WAF Ventures, the global investment and advisory arm of WAF, where they work with startups, investors, VC, and PE firms around the world. A graduate in engineering, he did his MBA from IIT Delhi and studied law at the Faculty of Law, University of Delhi. And now, let me introduce you to our partners. Annual OEM Gold Partners, Morris Garages, MG, and Volkswagen. And here, let me tell you, partnering with us is indeed very profitable because just 2 days back, one of our partners has struck a deal with 50 dealerships across India. Our annual gold partner is Abbott, Gallops Motors, and One Moto India. Annual partners Focus Engineering India and Focus Technologies Dubai and motoruncle.com. And our media partners Patriot Newspaper and WAF TV. Over to you, Anuj.
Thanks a lot, Kiran ma'am, for the wonderful introduction. So I'll quickly get back to the discussion points that we have for today. But before we do that, we had also promised that the attendees for today's webinar would get a 1-month free service of WAF CXO jobs. So I'll just quickly show you what WAF CXO jobs is. You just have to Google WAF CXO jobs. Go there. It's the first link. You click on it. All right. Here there are two options. I'm a CXO looking for change and growth, or I'm an authorized recruiter. You click on any one option as per your preference, and you can fill in your details, and they come to us, and it's 100% confidential, and people get great results. So that's a free service from our side to all the attendees of today's webinar. So I'm shutting this link down. I'm coming back to the talking points. So friends, we have an august, set of leaders today to take this discussion forward. We couldn't have asked for better experts in this field. So what we're going to discuss today is, as the things have begun to open up, as what we were discussing prior to the discussion too, can we really afford to go back to the old normal from the new normal? Like we knew what the old normal was, the BC era, as we say, before COVID. So can we go back to the BC era from the new normal, which was the COVID era? Or is there a next normal we need to adopt? It's a very important question. Third point, a lot of people say that, hey, I'm double vaccinated, nothing will happen to me. But is double vaccination enough to stop the coronavirus? Then people also say, hey, I have high antibodies, herd immunity has kicked in, we don't really need to have that mask, we can lower the mask and the guard. So do high antibodies ensure one can lower the mask? Then point number 5, what are the precautions that we need to continue to take in the new normal to ensure the workforce stays safe and business is better than usual? Nothing should be at the cost of the other. We can't have health, our physical or mental health at the cost of our financial health. All three are in tandem. As they say, one needs social distancing, one needs physical distancing. Socially, we need to be closer than ever before. And point number six, where we would like to request all the CHROs which are there, joined us as speakers. How do these aforesaid points connect and harmonize with our organization's culture, ethos, and the line of business? So that's what we're looking at. So I'll stop sharing the screen, and if we can begin the conversation with Captain Sahab, so Captain Pranav Prasoon, who's the HR head at Renault, if we can request him to share his points, how the journey has been, and how does he look at the at the future? How are those top 5 points, in line with your organization's priority of health, the rules, the culture, and the way of working? So all yours, Captain Pranav.
Thank you. So, being from army, you have shot me first, and I'm a bit nervous because there's a doctor on the floor. So I'll try my level best to be precise and be factual than just talking English. So fine. We all are here and we all have survived. So congratulations for all of us. The thing is, we have this word called cognitive dissonance. So first, when wave one, at time March, Jan March, when it was happening last year, we all were figuring it out that how it is. And maybe in Chennai they used to say that we have rasam, so it will not happen to us. Or maybe India, it will not happen because our climate is different, and that's how it is. So but it started happening and we all started closing, and I was completely shocked and surprised because we used to be, one of my GMs was sent back from Mumbai airport back to France. That's how that day the travel stopped. So then I understood that things are not that easy, things are difficult. And then the government directions keeps on coming, and we all as a HR folks, all of us, we started working together, trying to understand it, trying to comprehend the direction of the government and protect our employees. So lockdown, no lockdown, we closed the company 2 days before the lockdown, and that's how it is. But work from home started kicking in, and we remember the first day we all used to be completely decked up and sitting next to our work, so-called office, in the house, and we started working on. And the things started changing after some time. I remember, there was this anecdote, this I should mention, not an anecdote, but this was a real time experience where one lady told me in one of the discussions, diagonal discussions, that Pranav, we should define a lunchtime, specific lunchtime. I will come on. Hey, you are at the home, so you should define yourself. You can tell your manager that this is time I have lunch. And generally 1 to 2 in entire India is hungry, and 1 to 1:30 rather entire army is sleeping. So we know that after that is a lunchtime. Typical 1 o'clock is the lunchtime of India. But lately, when I started pondering on this, I understood that she's a lady back home. So it is not that she eats, she has to cook the food. And if she's busy in meetings, then it doesn't happen, right? So we all started having, that the word is very cliche now. Started building the thing called empathy, thing called compassion. And I think wave one was all figuring out, right? Understanding, with the numbers growing. And I was a casualty of wave one. I had COVID in wave one. And then we started opening up and things started moving on. The business continuity has to be gone further. The business recuperation has to go on further. So wave one to wave two was wave two was the future we were living in. We also launched a product in between, the physical launch of the product. And then we entered in wave two, and it was quite a shock and surprise to all of us with the speed, it was more dangerous than wave one. And doctor is there and he can give you more details on that. But it was really difficult, and most of us, when wave one, we used to see that COVID was happening somewhere in a distance. Wave two, it was happening maybe in the next door in the same family. And as Ketan was mentioning, in our own small families, where we have lost people also. At that time, one thing which came very clearly in the employees was, we could understand something called fear. Right. And we were lucky enough, we could arrange some oxygen concentrators. Many organizations started building, so-called ad hoc hospitals. Doctors came into picture. The best way which we can help the employees and the families, we started doing it. But I'm no one to say that it was enough, it was not enough. And a lot of things which we saw on the LinkedIn, the way we deploy the employer value proposition. But actually it was all humanity, standing for each other, right? the and then post that, the vaccination started happening, and all of us started, in that in that step of getting our entire staff vaccinated. And so this is how I see overall how we grew. And as you mentioned, had a beautiful question, that will we go back to the old normal, is again, we are all are figuring it out, because still, when we say wave 3, we were talking about, currently with God's grace things are fine. And doctor, I don't know how to count blessings, but the number of seconds we are living in, I think someone has blessed there, so that's how it is. But things are bad in Europe. My staff who is there in Netherlands, and that part of the world, it is wave 5 happening already, and 40% of the people who are there in hospital, they're already vaccinated. So big question mark, that is the vaccination helping, or are we creating that antigens, antibodies inside it is work? So maybe maybe doctor, I'll leave to doctor to answer those questions. But how the organizations are moving forward is, one thing is, a word which is sipping inside, two words are sipping inside the organization. We spoke a lot, it is cliche now, the word called resilience, right? And the second word is called fortitude, right? So where we are with the pains, we are fighting and we are taking it further. If, as I mentioned in many talks, if the purpose of the employee is connected to the purpose of the organization, there is no problem. As Ketan was mentioning, you don't have people moving away from your organization at the end of the day, because they have seen, leaders like anyone who is here, or maybe the OC members, or the MC members, the management committees, the CFOs, the so-called MDs, right, standing with them in whatever tough highs and lows of life, whatever it was. We all worked on a different philosophies of insurance, right? That was to take extra care of them, hybrid work model, all those things working. But till the time employee feels it, right, you cannot say that you have done enough, right? And I think with this, there will be enough, humanity, which will be seeing, in the times to come. um, One more thing which we all are facing, and it is a known secret, there's a lot of resignation in most of the organization, right? People have moved to tier 2s and tier 3 cities. Coming back is a problem. All of them, they're trying to bring it. But we, if I say that I, as an organization, a sales and marketing organization, with God's grace, again, counting blessings, don't know how, but we are working with 100% of the population, and they all are quite motivated to work. One initiative I'll mention, wave 3 was about to happen, and I was talking to my MD, what special thing what we do. And this is, by the way, our 10th year in of Renault in India. So I told him that, okay, to safeguard the people, let's make a sort of a physical sort of initiative what we do. And I plan that, okay, though we can connect digitally from the different part of the country, we all will contribute, as an organization. We had 10 products in 10 years, so 1000 kilometers for 10 products, it comes to 10,000 kilometers. And we, as an employee base of Renault India, will contribute to 10,000 kilometers in 1 month. And to my surprise, within less than 28 days, my employees covered 1,400, 800, 14, sorry, 14,800 plus kilometers. So that was quite good. So healthy lungs, healthy people, quite engaged, and ready for wave 3. So these are the small things which I see. But yes, any discussion like this will throw many lights, where many organizations would have done many things. But yes, the people will be a winner here, the humanity will be a winner here. I don't know, we can look back to the old normal, but yes, whenever we look back, we will look back with a lot of fortitude and a lot of courage. This is what I wanted to open with. Over to you, Anuj. Thank you.
And Pranav, it's very nice to know. Of course, the two words courage and fortitude and resilience, the third one. So switching gears and coming to Manmohan. Manmohan is the HR head, group HR head for ORIX, and ORIX has several businesses in India. They are one of the largest players in car leasing, and car subscription. So drivers, typically car drivers, also into car rental. So car drivers can't work from home even if they want to, irrespective of the wave. Likewise, even for Ketan, the people who are right in the field, they can't work from home. So when it comes to that, you have to go out in the field and you have to work. That's where you get your bread and butter from, or that's where your company gets the revenue from. Then you need some mechanisms. If like what Captain Prasoon mentioned, that in Europe 40% of the people who are hospitalized are vaccinated. So vaccination probably cannot really prevent you or save you from getting it. But so probably then it's a no-brainer that you need some nice sound testing kits, to test your employees or people, before you let them on your premises, or when your drivers are going and driving your customers. The drivers need to be tested so that they don't pass on something to someone. So with these kind of thoughts, so Manmohan, if you can share what have been the journey of ORIX, and something on testing possibly, what has been your experience with your workforce?
Anuj, first of all, thanks for getting me about this August panel. I think there's a lot to learn from everybody here. As far as ORIX is concerned, like any organization, I would say that the way it started, typically the public memory is short and there's a strong tendency to want to move on from any crisis at the earliest. But we had to look at this, more holistically. So when we got hit with the pandemic, it was like, a bolt from the blue. So it had severe consequences. We all know about it. But the way the researches have gone on in the medical field and with the testing, etc., with vaccines out now, there's a bit of safety net that we can say that we all have got created all around us. So like any organization, we also, began to feel that while things look a little better now, but does anybody has real, answers to how long this crisis is going to last, really, or what the perfect new normal should look like, right? So in the meantime, what's happened is that a lot of, organizations have already taken a lot of steps, like, from hiring freeze measures to cutting down on budgets and all that, and scaling up learning, etc., which, began more adaptive in its nature by now in any way. And as far as driver is concerned, we had to kind of make sure that our driver community is completely vaccinated, right? So as we stand right now, we had a vaccination drive in a company. The employee population is close to about 96% vaccinated. The driver population is 87% vaccinated. So we don't let any car go out, without a vaccinated driver. So that's absolutely important, right? And also there's a safety, kind of screen between the passenger and the driver. So that had to be definitely brought in straight away. Besides that, we also had to introduce several programs for, we talked about the safety, etc., and all that. So to people to feel slightly secure, there were medical insurances, etc., brought in for drivers. There were enhancement of the, medical covers for employees and for drivers and all that. There were ex gratias basically announced for unfortunate demises of some people in the organization. All that is going on. Of course, there was a huge amount of support from the parent also coming with concentrators coming, from Malaysia, ORIX Malaysia and Thailand. And all this went on, and then we had to kind of hold, wellness, I would say focus on wellness increased, counseling through professionals for the employees. We talked about empathy. I heard about empathy from Captain. So huge amount of drive about empathy in the organization, yoga, mindfulness seminars and all that. And employee experience by and large was enhanced, right? We also have flexibility now, a hybrid working model. There's a huge amount of work-life activity that goes on all the time here. And a lot of recreations, celebrations that go on. That we're talking about the culture that we have here, right? And the performances are assessed basis just your outcomes and not just productivity, how much is really going as an input there. So all that went on as a part of culture change that was driven as a change from the pandemic that triggered the whole change. We already had that. It's a leaf from the old normal, basically. It's a leaf from the old normal. We already had these things, but just got accentuated further. So there's a lot of compassionate handling for the employees, for the if there's a case of, let's say, COVID there, or any support is required, how the company rallies around that person in terms of offering support. The increments were kind of announced on time. The bonuses were distributed in time. The salaries are given ahead of time always. So these are things that did in our company to kind of create a culture which help generate more positivity around in the company.
Great, that's fantastic, Manmohan. So, what possible testing measures were adopted apart from just that ubiquitous infrared thermometer? If something you can, delve on that.
No, we only have the screening at the entrance. So that is only screen that we do right now. And besides that, I mentioned we've had vaccination drives that we introduced in the company premises,
Okay.
where the employees at large were vaccinated. But beyond that, there's not much of testing that has happened.
All right, fair enough, fair enough. So switching gears again and coming to Mr. Ketan Krishna, who's the head of HR at RentoMojo. Though it's a startup, but it's a huge organization. They have several feet on the street, helping customers, pampering customers through their IT-enabled and e-commerce-enabled venture. So Ketan, we've all seen, wave 1, wave 2, and God forbid, there should not be a wave 3. And as the top docs and medics keep saying, we have to keep ourselves safe. Yes, vaccination, double vaccination is one surely, a way, but we have to also be very fast, in our response. Prevent that we do the testing, and if there are any cases, we isolate, segregate, and we do the contact tracing. One of our team members, he's in Dubai. He had gone for ADIPEC. It's the biggest oil and gas convention in the world. It's in Dubai, and in his own team there was a case. So the way their entire team came down crunching, in the world's biggest oil and gas convention, is phenomenal. That in itself is a case study. The way people were being quarantined, the way people were being segregated, the rapid pace at which the testing was being done. Back and forth. It was fantastic the way the entire situation was managed. So, Ketan, something on your experiences, what you have seen in last, 18, 20 months, and where do you see the new normal coming? The new normal.
Thank you so much, Anuj. A few thoughts, perspective broadly to bring it together. Few interesting things that I observed. Now, I don't know if any one of you had an opportunity to run an engagement survey during the first lockdown. We had one scheduled, so it ran in spite of the fact that we were working from home, and the survey results just shot up. We had a 3x change in the result, and I was wondering suddenly what changed in the organization where, and we didn't do anything, right? So when the results are matching your input, there was never a plan. And I went back to the company who did it, and they were doing a survey for other companies also. Now, in fact, see what happened. Something interesting happened was, or probably the most interesting part was, the war shifted from I'm not getting 2% increment, or my boss is not good, or I have a workplace issue, to how do we survive as a race, as an organization. I think that was a very significant shift that I saw. And I'm glad, as Captain spoke about and Manmohan spoke about, people picked up empathy. Actually, business was secondary and empathy came in first. I've seen the kind of people who have stood up to helping others who are in their network or in the organization is amazing. The kind of work we did, we were just on the WhatsApp messages to see how we can find something for anybody who is in need, or anybody's family who is in need, because that's a time when resources were very, very short. Networking was working. We were trying to secure things, manage things, move things. So I think empathy was the core of human life actually came up. About double vaccination and all, whatever little I understand about science and biology, I think what it will do is it will help us live with COVID. I don't think so COVID is meant to be fought. Right? That's going to be the reality. How do we ensure that we are still safe and sound while COVID takes its own path? I don't think so anyone else has an answer. This is exactly what has happened with most of the historical disease or infection or pandemics that we've spoken about. And of course, glad that we have so much work happening on the medical sciences. There are ways it's like knowing that I have a seatbelt on, right? That doesn't mean that I'll start driving recklessly. It's very important. So for me, vaccination is like that seat belt. It's proven beyond an extent, saying that, okay, it's going to keep us safe. That doesn't mean, however, that I'll start driving recklessly, because there are other people's life. There are impact that it can have on others. So that's how typically I'm seeing a vaccination or an antibody case. Now, on the old normal, new normal, my understanding about whatever I understand about human behavior, see, the evolution of human race doesn't happen very, very fast. It takes its own time. What COVID did was it took us to a future state, saying that, okay, this is what is possible. But honestly, if you ask me today, when I look at things happening around, I think 80-90% of the world is back to where it is. Now, Delhi recorded one of the highest pollution months after 2019. What does it mean? That everybody's out there in the road and life is as back as people want to. So can we afford it? Yes, we can afford going back to the old normal. Should we afford it? Should we move in that direction? No, possibly not. I think lowering our guard is not the best thing that we should do at this point in time, at individual level, at organization level. New normal, like every generation that evolves, or the human race, how it evolves, there are few 10, 15, 20% of the world population that adopts to the change, find values in what is changing, and drives the world towards that. And that's exactly what is, in my sense, going to happen here. When I look out, 80-90% of people are back to what they were used to in their early life. So the new normal, I think it will be faster, but it'll evolve. There are these 15-20% of people who are going to drive this change. We see a lot of digital adoption. We see how a lot of us from different parts of the country are right now connecting it. So the key absolute immediate value adds that have happened. At least I've been an office goer, having trained in Mumbai for a very, very long period. I've been a hardcore office goer who would start at 8:30 and there was no typically an end time, but I've seen that kind of experience. Now, last 1.5 years, the work from home is just a different experience. I know I'm far better. I'm able to add more value. A lot of my personal perspective have shifted. At least as an organization for our central teams, we are clear that it's going to be perpetual work from anywhere. Operating teams have to work, but even in some operating teams, we have given the privilege to work from home if people choose to. So this has been my overall experience so far, Anuj.
That's fantastic, Ketan, and I think you just hit the nail on its head. Typically we're all used to a rut, a daily grind. Get up in the morning, get ready, drop kids to school, head to work, come back, blah blah blah, and being for 20 months, working from home, and I think it just took a month. We might have been working for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years or above. It just took a month and we were in a new rut. We were in a new grind, a new routine. It just took not even a month. And some way that's also how we are very adjusting. We can really we are very flexible as human beings. I don't know, the only species which comes close to us is a cockroach, possibly, in being so adjusting. And we keep seeing, in fact, Maharaja Rajneesh, Bhagwan Rajneesh, the guru, he had said once, he had shared in one of his lectures that one of his friends had gone to the South Pole, and inadvertently he carried a few roaches in his luggage. And when he opened the suitcase, they started going everywhere, in every direction. So by the time he went from his country to Antarctica, they had acclimatized to the climate, to the weather, to the sub-zero temperature, and they were just fine. So we adjust, we can acclimatize. So is that
Anuj, can I?
Yeah.
Sorry,
sure.
I add something. I was speaking to a very senior executive some time back from a different industry. Now, one of the reasons, look at operating teams. I'm sure a lot of you had teams on field. Now, they didn't come back they didn't work from home because there was a need to run the business, right? Now, what is happening is, if the need to run the business involves us also to go to office, I think that's going to happen. Unfortunately, fortunately, that's the reality. Now, he said something very interesting, and this person is in the investment banking space. So he said, I've been working with large clients and potential deals for work from home. Now, because some other companies and some other people have started to travel, that's an expectation built on me, saying that you also have to travel. Otherwise, there's a possibility that you may lose a deal. Now, this is the second cycle which is happening. If you ask me, I don't want to get back to a regular work setup or start just going and flaunting around myself in the world again. Possibly not. But if the expectations come from organizations and there's a survival and the organization has to grow, I don't think so many of us would have much choices. So a lot of us would have to take that stand, saying that, guys, because everybody else is going back to normal, a lot of us are being forced to go back to normal. Now, that is something that I think we need to arrest and stay focusing, that why we should look at what changed and why it changed and what the benefit was, rather than because everybody else is changing back, we should also change, is where I think the problem is going to multiply.
So that's the new peer pressure. So somewhere, at the leadership level, the leaders of the organizations have to set the right precedence that if your job is not to go out and drive a vehicle or to put up a furniture, you don't really need to go out that much. You can still continue to work from home. And instead of going from the new normal to the old normal, let's co-create a hybrid next normal.
Yeah. Suddenly the philosophies, a lot of them spoke about, yes, this is the new world, trust, we will work remotely. And now exactly same set of people are back. They're saying, come back to office. That's funny.
Enough's enough. Get back.
Get back.
I think also, Anuj, one more thing has happened in the last 1.5 years. The world is looking strikingly different now, right, than it was a year and a half back. There has been so much of business transformation than probably the entire last decade put together. All that migration to cloud, switch to digital operations, uptake of e-commerce, contactless payments, online learning, and so on and so forth. And it's not just that the business processes are innovative. This is also helping the mankind in general.
True.
So it is, two things are very clear as far as I'm concerned. One is that, coronavirus is still around, infecting and actually killing, but the number is a bit low right now.
True.
So we don't get to realize the seriousness. And that said, the physical safety standpoint, until the efficacy of the vaccines are proven in the long run, I think there'll continue to be a risk of infection. And doctors on the panel can probably validate that. So the protective practices that we have come to learn, they need to be sustained. The physical distancing, the hand washing, etc., the masking, etc., right? And of course, vaccination is the key. Without that, it's like, going to the deeper end of the pool without knowing how to swim. So the danger of drowning is far more greater there.
Exactly. So now I think without further ado, it's the time to get the top medical experts in this conversation. And I'm sure they would have been very patiently listening to us. And Dr. Mohan, we would like to request you to bust as many myths as you wish to, which you might have been facing from the corporate world or from the world at large. So it's your stage, all yours.
Sure. Thank you so much. I've been listening to the conversations. And the first point I would like to make is this virus that we are looking at was discovered way back in 1950s. It's been around. It's just that we were not exposed to it. And particularly SARS coronavirus 2, we have not been exposed to it. Nobody has got antibodies. So there was only two ways that we could overcome this organism. One is either you get infected, you mount an immune response, and if your immune response is sustained and if it is durable, you will get protected. Or the other way around would be to prepare a vaccine to reduce the severity of the disease and let you not fall very sick and get hospitalized. So way back in June of last year, just like this forum, all the vaccine manufacturers were invited by FDA, CDC, World Health Organization. They all sat together at the table and asked, okay, what would be the minimum requirement for a vaccine to be approved? Okay, believe it or not, the answer was 50% efficacy against severe hospitalization, severe infection. So I was just saying that there were two ways of getting immunized. One is getting naturally infected, and if the antibodies sustain for a while, you'll be protected. But that was not to be, because within 4 months, people were getting reinfected. That means the infection was not providing sustained immunity. So then we had to step in, prepare vaccines, and those vaccines are doing their job, basically protecting you from falling very sick. That is the goal. This is the goal of the first generation vaccine. It is not to protect you forever. That was not the goal. So the first generation vaccine is doing their job. So what is likely to happen to the disease? The disease will become endemic over time. Okay. And if you read today's newspapers, the death rate of COVID-19 in the elderly seems to be taking off again because they're losing their antibodies faster than expected. So this is likely to happen. So there are people with diabetes, people with hypertension, people with other disorders. They might lose their antibodies faster, even if they're double vaccinated. So, for example, UK has started giving out booster doses, but these are all, again, temporary measures. What we need to think about is testing to know whether the virus is present or not, vaccines to make sure that you do not fall very sick and get admitted to the hospital. These are the Swiss cheese layer model. Basically, we know that every layer of cheese has got holes. Okay, it is insufficient. So testing and vaccines add additional layer of protection and helps us to keep the workplace safe. Why does the workplace need to be safe? Simple question is, what is the probability of somebody acquiring an infection at the workplace? And what are the consequences of acquiring that infection? Okay, so likelihood and consequence. And this is typically, as you're all belonging to the management, this risk management model, risk assessment model, this becomes even more important as we go towards endemicity. So the clear point I would like to make here is a simple message on a London bus, which I would like to share here. Act like you have got it. Anyone can spread it. Stick to the rules to stop the spread. So keep your workplace safe.
Great, that's fantastic, Dr. Mohan. So it's like a writing on the wall. So double vaccination surely is important. It's a no-brainer. And there are no two ways about it. We have to have the double vaccination in place. And yes, as Dr. Mohan mentioned, that will drastically reduce the severity of the infection. We might not have to go to the hospital, which we have seen. A lot of people have got COVID in the last few months. In fact, I know one of my very good old friends, he got it, and the entire family got it. But both the parents were double vaccinated, so they were recuperating at home. But the kids were exposed. So that's
Anuj, I would like to mention the case of Singapore.
Okay, sure.
93% of the adult eligible population has been vaccinated, double vaccinated. But they're continuing to see a surge of cases in Singapore. Why did this happen? That 7% who are not vaccinated or who were not eligible for vaccination is becoming significant. And they're not living under one roof. They're spread all over the island. And you can still see the total number of cases is much higher than the average that they saw last year. So this goes to say that just by vaccination, it is not foolproof. You can lose antibodies over time. We still don't know. There is something called the correlate of protection. Means if you vaccinate somebody, what is the level of antibodies required to protect you forever? We don't know that. None of the vaccine companies know that. We just have taken the vaccine to protect ourselves against this outbreak, this particular outbreak. So this is the power of the first generation vaccine. I just want to break that myth that just taking a vaccination does not mean that you are protected forever. It is not the case.
More with you on that, Dr. Mohan. In fact, it's a sales tool in the retail world. You go to any mall, you go to any shop, even you go to dealerships or vehicles. Over there, right at the entrance, they have pasted it on the wall or on the glass, or there are those standees kept. Our staff is 100% vaccinated. Be rest assured, you are 100% safe on these premises. So this way also, a lot of these half-truths, are going and getting transmitted. That if you are double vaccinated, doesn't make a difference. The other day I was at my colony club, and over there were people who were walking around without a mask. I asked him, why this? They say, "Arey vaccination hui yaar, ab kya darna?"
Yeah. And just to let you know, the virus does not have a brain. It does not have a central nervous system. It is just 30,000 pairs of nucleotides, and it can change its form. In other words, to put it in your HR language, it's got its competitive advantage figured out very well. Okay? So the fitness is what matters. When you vaccinate, when the Delta variant is around, you need to vaccinate more number of people to get to the same effect. Do you get what I mean? Okay. If the Delta variant is circulating in the community, the reproduction number of that is anywhere between 6 to 8. Reproduction number refers to how many people you can potentially infect if you have the Delta variant. It is 6 to 8, and the original virus was 2.5 to 3. Okay, means this virus has been able to quickly adapt and adopt to the new environments that we are creating. And vaccination puts the virus under pressure as much as we humans. Okay.
So
Hope that helps.
So, Dr. Mohan, when would be the turn for those booster shots? I understand that till now, even the double vaccination is not complete for a lot of people. But I believe the medics have already started getting the booster. Is that correct? Or the plan is there?
That's correct. So the frontline workers who are going to deal with COVID-19, and these are at high risk because they get exposed to multiple variants at the same time. So what the vaccine companies are also doing is they've looked at mix and match. It's called as hybrid priming. If you took a vaccine of one company and if you took the second dose from another company, there seems to be an extra layer of protection than otherwise. Okay, this is also being tried out. This is also being studied. The third point is that by the time we vaccinate the children who need to get back to school, the elderly are going to lose the antibodies. So who are you going to vaccinate? Are you going to give booster doses for the elderly or are you going to vaccinate the children? Can you see the moral dilemma? Okay. So I'm just saying vaccine is not a foolproof or a panacea for the time being. The companies are working on vaccines which have a broader range of protection. They are in the pipeline, more than 130 of them for that matter. Okay.
So, Dr. Mohan, if we say that the vaccination or double vaccination not a foolproof solution, in Europe the cases have gone up, in Singapore, they've gone up, the virus infection rate has gone up, and if we say that, okay, then the other option is testing, but then in testing, RT-PCR and kind of test takes so long for the report to come, and they say the rapid kits, those rapid kits are not that reliable. So, what is the best way to go about it then?
Okay. So if you look at what happened in India very early on, from March onwards, symptomatic people who are very sick had to go to the hospital, find a COVID-19 center and get tested. And typically that was RT-PCR. And while they're waiting for the results, a lot of people got infected because you need a holding area for that. That was not planned. But later on, of course, improvisations happened. And then the rapid antigen tests were rolled out. And if you look at what happened in 2021, ICMR rolled out the self-tests, even the tests that are available in the pharmacies, people can buy and test at the ease of their homes. And this antigen tests do not require sophisticated machines, simple tests like a pregnancy test. Okay, if the virus is present and if the person is infectious in nature, if it is a high quality test, it will tell you that this person has got the virus. Okay. The best thing to do is isolate yourself for 72 hours after the test and check again if you have the test. And if the test turns out positive, please stay at home for 10 days and make sure that you don't go around infecting others. So very simple logic. As we move towards endemicity, testing strategy also has changed. It has adapted over time. Just like most other business models, most other management strategies. So we need to adapt and adopt. Yeah?
Fair enough. So then in that case, so probably it calls in for something like a rapid RT-PCR, if it can be there.
Okay, so RT-PCR is just another molecular method, just to let you know. Okay,
True.
So rapid molecular is the right word, under which RT-PCR happens to be one of them. Okay, there are many other types of technologies under molecular. In this, what happens is a portion of the gene that is targeted on the virus, okay, that gets amplified and that signal is detected. But it so happens that in some people, they continue to shed the virus for 6 to 8 weeks after the 7 days of infection. Okay, despite antibodies. Okay, the reason that is happening is even the fragmented or partially destroyed virus is picked up by this PCR.
Yeah, true.
And amplified. But when they cultured that sample, they could not find a live virus.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when all this cycle threshold values, cutoffs, all these things came in. But without going into details, just to let you know, there are 3 steps: extraction, amplification, and detection for the molecular tests. Okay, these processes can be parallel or in serial. If it is in serial, it takes longer. If it is in parallel, it becomes a rapid test, and it can give you result in less than 20 minutes for that matter. Okay, so rapid molecular tests are also available. Rapid antigen tests are also available. So it's your choice depending on where you are. For example, most of the airports are using rapid molecular tests before departure because it makes sense. Okay, yeah.
So the rapid molecular is at par with RT-PCR, which takes normally a day or 2 to come.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely, the essential processes are the same.
And it takes only 20 minutes. What the airports
absolutely correct.
So something like that possibly can also be done at workplaces if there is an inclination that somebody is having the symptoms and we need to, isolate someone. So this rapid RT-PCR molecular kit can be possibly used there. But then how easy it is to self-administer? You need a doctor to do it, or how fast the results come out. All those things.
As of today, the rapid molecular is still done by a healthcare agency who supports the company by facilitating the testing. Whereas the rapid antigen test does not require any sophisticated equipment or people. You don't need a person wearing the PPE to come and do the swabbing. You can do the swabbing yourself with the home test, with the self-test that is available. And also the fact that the digital data connectivity piece is attached to the rapid antigen test has made it even more meaningful. Okay. ICMR requires that the rapid antigen test be declared. So there is a 3D barcode that can be scanned on that device and your details will be uploaded to ICMR. So it is responsive like that. So all these tools put together help us to gain a window on the pandemic where we are. And we can even, if you aggregate the data and use data analytics, you can pinpoint where exactly is the hotspot. Where exactly are the cases being spread out? So I'm talking your language now. I see you converted me already.
So you have the virus in you now.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Great, fantastic.
Hope
So
that
all this is really nice to know. And from whatever I can make sense of, whether it is the organizations or it's the huge plants, factories, or the retail, I don't think so. Yeah. So on vaccination, I think everybody has done a stellar job. And really kudos to the leaders and even the leaders who are here in our program. They have shared how they have been after their employees, their teams to be 100% double vaccinated. But yes, when it comes to testing, I don't think much is being done. So there are some case studies which, so I like to get Mr. Sunil Mehra in the conversation. If there are some case studies or use cases that you possibly have of testing, and if they are of our industry, it will be even better. If you can please share.
Sure. Thanks, Anuj. And first of all, thanks for organizing this and inviting us as well. So what I'll do a bit differently, I'll try and present a few slides because that will make things come to alive a bit better. Or maybe if that's not allowed, I'll try and speak.
No, please feel free. Please feel free. Anything which helps us be safer and keeps the workplace safe and running, you can present all night. We don't mind.
Sunil is booting up. Let me just make a point.
Sure.
That the virus can sustain itself on steel and plastic surfaces for more than 80 hours. This was one of the earliest things that we found out.
Yes.
That means automobile industry is a high risk environment. That's just bottom line. Okay. If one person is infected and that person comes to the workplace and he is not tested, it is highly likely that the virus can sustain itself on the steel and plastic surfaces. And when other people touch those surfaces, they can acquire the virus. So that's point number 1. Please go ahead, Sunil.
All right.
Thanks, Dr. Mohan. And I think you've shared the context. I guess what's coming out clearly from most of the conversations we've had so far, that vaccination remains critical, but I think we have to combat this pandemic and start moving to an endemic. And even during an endemic, testing requirement will continue. So, a combination of testing as well as vaccination is perhaps the best solution as we start moving and working together, living with this virus as it's called. So we've got some solutions like Dr. Mohan said. This is the outline. I'll rush through because a lot of this has got covered. What we've seen, I think people spoke. We've seen unprecedented loss in lives, livelihoods. We've seen in some cases economy slowed down, specifically in wave one, where people, just there was no planning. Nobody planned for this virus, and we really didn't know what to do. And of course, with that, as we learned, as all countries learned, we've seen a constantly evolving situation. Government guidelines have changed. Sometimes you need to get a test done to enter a state. Sometimes you don't need to get a test done to enter a state, and so on and so forth. And every organization has found its hybrid model, new normal, or some sort of normal, through which they've basically figured out a way to resume operations to the extent they can. But yeah, during this, perhaps there also have been organizations which may have worked at less than ideal capacity or what they would prefer to do. So the challenge is really what we saw in wave one, and towards wave two, we started learning a bit. Was are we creating a safe environment in the business, specific or business critical people, if they're still needing to come to work? What are the supply chain disruptions that are coming through? Are we working at full capacity, not at full capacity? Are we getting testing from a reliable source? Because a lot of people, like Anuj, you mentioned that there was a lot of perception about, are tests accurate, are they great, are they good quality, and therefore how do you ensure reliability? And is there an oversight and deployment, and how does this whole process work as people in private sector, government sector, or organizations continue to start testing? We really felt that any sector, the automotive sector, requires two real broad categories. One is to keep back to working at full capacity. If you're working one shift instead of 3 shifts, how do you work 3 shifts? If you're working with lesser manpower versus what ideally is needed, how do we get them back? How do we develop solutions which ensure that business critical people can come back to work rather than only operate from home? And how we do all of this ensuring compliance, that okay, this is allowed, this is approved, this is in line with protocols, whether for testing or, from that matter, any other protocol that one needs to keep in mind, social distancing to mask wearing to sanitization and facility setup kind
Sorry,
of thing.
Sunil, if you're moving the presentation, I can't see it move.
Yeah, exactly. So I just wanted to point that out.
I thought you were just giving a contact.
Oh, okay.
I think yeah.
Okay, let me try again.
Put it to
Is it moving now?
You put in the slideshow mode, Mr. Mehra.
It is on slideshow mode, but I don't know why it's not moving. Not moving yet?
Yeah, now it's moving. Yeah, it's moving.
We are on the first slide. We can see only the first slide right now. If that's
right.
where
and still, it's still on the first slide, right? And so sorry. Then what I'll do? We'll try and skip this. I'll try and speak through.
Yeah, it's moving now. It's moving now. It's moving, but it's not in the slideshow mode. It's in the normal, edit mode.
Is it visible? I'm so sorry for this. Is it visible?
It is visible and it is moving.
Now, when you're moving it without a slideshow, I think it is moving.
Okay.
Yeah. Please carry on.
Sunil, I think you're better off just speaking. This is a bit.
Yeah, I think that may work better.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
please.
Sure. Okay. So as we started working, Dr. Mohan did speak about the various solutions we have in hand, and a little bit of the science in terms of what it works and how does this whole virus work. And I'll obviously request Dr. Mohan to chip in if I start up, not sharing the full picture as I speak. But typically, we've seen that the symptoms for the virus start and they last for almost 2 weeks. And that's when, the rapid molecular tests, the rapid antigen tests work, because that's when you have symptoms. Typically, they peak between 7 to 10 days. And as 2 weeks go by, and that is why the quarantine period was 2 weeks, what starts working is an antibody test. Now, when Abbott realized, and being in the forefront of this virus, we realized that we perhaps need solutions for testing when people have COVID, and also for figuring out whether people who had infection earlier, more for surveillance and therefore for understanding what percentage of employees or the entire population might have got the virus in wave 1 or wave 2. We also therefore have products and a mix. So what we really tend to offer is not only a test, but a solution. And what we mean by solution is that, I think Anuj, you asked that question earlier, that how do you do this test, right? So when Abbott really approaches anybody, the whole idea is it's a one-stop shop. You get the test, you get a service provider who tests for you, and he also reports it, because COVID testing, as we all are aware, all COVID testing needs to be mandatorily reported on the ICMR portal. So you can't actually not report any COVID test whether it's a positive or negative. And to manage this, we've got an array of solutions as we speak. So there's what we call an ID now, rapid molecular platform. That's called, within it comes in the gambit of a PCR test, but a different technology. So rapid molecular, sorry, it comes in the gambit of a rapid molecular test, a different technology, which is what Dr. Mohan was referring to, gets used in airports, in emergency hospitals, in trauma. An accurate test where you test the viral RNA and you get results in 13 minutes or less. So this is as good as any other molecular test, but you get results in 13 minutes as opposed to waiting on an RT-PCR in today's time for at least 8 hours. Unfortunately, during wave 2, maybe for 3 days or even 5 days in some cases. And of course, we've got what's called the rapid antigen test.
So I think let's continue the discussion. So if we can just get Captain Pranav back in the conversation. So as the medical experts have mentioned, the two very important tenets of fighting COVID, without getting too overconfident, and they are of course vaccination, on which, as I had mentioned, all of you have done a stellar and a remarkable job. But when it comes to testing, what are we doing in testing? And as also what Mr. Mehra mentioned, each and every result has to be compulsorily reported to ICMR, whether positive or negative. So does that act like a deterrent for corporates to do the testing? कि नहीं यार वो upload करना पड़ेगा, government will get to know, and then all hell might break loose. It might be bad for the image of the company, this, that. So do you think that becomes a deterrent, for testing? Any thoughts on that?
So no, I was no. It was really a beautiful discussion and a lot of insights. Thank you for calling doctors here. I'm really impressed. So no. The answer to your question is no. Uh, See, this time we have seen a lot of I will say responsible, and even HR, coming for the I can give good marks to the HR folks, and Manmohan, Ketan, and myself can feel good about it. We took the thing head on, and we were quite responsible. Yes, the business continuity in between was an issue, and of course, more than that, the humanity, we never wanted to risk. So we were very clear. Still, all the organization follows that. As you enter, there is a sort of a normal check, what the typical thing what we do. If there is any case, the primary secondary checking, which is happens, and the offices are sanitized, and again, it is work from home for few days, and then only people are called. So there is no doubts that everyone is following the thing to the T. Also, we have the complication and those checks and balances from the government also, so which we follow. So one is more than this thing of it is a buggery. It is more than it is a responsibility. And human resources, when we say the first word is human, so we are more human to take care of such things. And Dr. Mohan, this was beautiful, which you explained, that the virus remains on steel and plastic bodies. So it gives also a strong message that even in whichever industry you work for, you cannot take the things lightly. With this also, there is a proper communication given to the employees that if you're not feeling well, if you are not okay, please don't come to the office. If you have any symptoms, please get yourself tested. And I think by now we are not that bad. No, when it was starting, we used to think that how Indians, the typical, the way, the old normals, how we people will control it. But to be honest, we have done a good job. And it is beautiful to see that we are well disciplined. That's what it is, at least in organizations. When I see Ketan was mentioning about Delhi, yes, things are, we are a bit indisciplined, but when you come to the organization, we follow it. And these are the results which speak. So if I tell you, all the organization follow and track the COVID cases. And from last, if I say May, I had only one case which was new in my office. So it was all okay, in control. And that one case also was work from home when they got diagnosed. So there's specific mechanism by which we follow it. But yes, if you say any specific way we do it further more than the established method of checking, we don't do. I don't think any organization follows anything more than that. The testing mechanism, what Sunil was mentioning, or doctor was mentioning. Yes.
So what Mr. Mehra and Dr. Mohan had mentioned was the rapid molecular test, which is in a way at par with RT-PCR, if I'm not wrong. So RT-PCR takes 8 hours or 3 days or 5 days, depending what time, whether it's a you're doing it in midst of a wave or on a normal day. And this rapid molecular, which is supposedly at par with RT-PCR, takes few minutes only, which even is done at the airports. So if this testing thing somehow, I'm just thinking aloud, that if we can control the testing of the employee, suppose any employee reports sick, that I'm not coming today to office because I'm feeling a few symptoms. So we might say, okay, get yourself tested. But if we only get that testing done at their place or at the premises, wherever it has been reported, so we get control of the result. And if it's the rapid molecular test, then within a few minutes we get the results. So I think
So
that's,
that was
yeah,
that was just to add. Most of the it's not I am blowing my own trumpet. Most of the organization are I'll not celebrate some companies here, but gone on the tele consultation mode, and we have packages of testing packages which is there. So those things are deployed. If any case which is brought to our notice, it goes through the teleconsultancy or through login details, and the testing happens at home. Now which out of the two happens, it completely depends on the available facilities there. We have no say, but yes, as these things are coming, and I know that it will be helping employees to do it better and do it faster.
absolutely fair enough. So, Mr.
But
Mehra,
things are in control. Yes, even if it happens at home, this teleconsultancy and the testing at home, it is helping employees a lot. Yes.
great, fair enough. So, Mr. Mehra, you want to continue the presentation?
Yeah, no, thanks, Anuj. And I don't know what was wrong with the
No worries, no
connectivity.
worries. The
Right, but
technology,
I was actually almost towards the end of the presentation
right.
that I was talking about that. Of course, this is a rapid molecular platform that is available, quick results comparable to RT-PCR. In 13 minutes, you know whether somebody's got an infection or not. But I think the big difference, which even ICMR referred to, and that's the reason India was amongst one of the first countries to open guidelines on self-test, was to ensure that access becomes very easy across the globe. Therefore, self-test got launched, and today, for screening perspectives, of course, you have an antigen test which can be done through phlebotomist. Abbott has a one-stop solution. We can provide that, but it can also be self-test, which someone can purchase from a pharmacy, do the test at home. It comes with an app. You just put the results on the app, and you know for yourself if you're positive, please isolate. If you're negative, you're okay to go back to work. If you're negative symptomatic, that's when you need to start looking at the molecular confirmation, right? So that's the way it works typically. And the reason it works very well this way is predominantly also because, from an organization perspective, Abbott, a rapid antigen test from a screening perspective does a great cost benefit. From a cost benefit, works very well because you spend relatively lesser amounts of money and you screen all employees. You ask for a use case study. I can only talk about Abbott because this is confidential. We actually mandatorily test all our employees once a week, whether it's plants, whether it's offices, and that's the way we are getting our people back to work. That mandatory once a week you to test yourself, and then if you're positive, sorry, isolate. If you're negative, please come to work so that you're responsible and you're really impacting anybody else. And it works very, very smoothly, very seamlessly. It gives a lot of confidence and employee morale. It's a booster for them because they know they're operating in a very, very safe environment. So the second bit which I wanted to address was perception. I think our rapid antigen test actually has a sensitivity of 99%, right? So we do have a very high sensitive and specific, which is the technical term. So what I'm trying to indicate is that they're very accurate. So one doesn't need to start thinking that is the result right. It's accurate, fast, affordable, and you can do it yourself, right? Because in 15 minutes you get results. So that's the way this works. But I just thought I'll share this with the audience that today I don't think screening or testing is a choice. That's what we recommend very strongly for all organizations, specifically as they want to get all the employees back to work. So I'll just end there. Thanks.
Great, fantastic. That's yes, that's need of the hour because almost all the offices have reopened, and they are going towards the old normal or the next normal. So somewhere we have to be cautious and we have to follow these two tenets: vaccination and testing. So now getting Manmohan back in the conversation. So any quick thoughts, Manmohan, on the discussion we've had till now?
I think first of all, kudos to you, Anuj, for organizing this. I think it's great to know what else is kind of as an option available for the organizations, because typically, as Captain said and other people said, we also have been limiting ourselves to kind of doing the physical bit, which is the mandatory, screening at the end and at the check-in time. And of course, isolation to people who are feeling little bad or little having symptoms and all that. And of course, rigorous cleaning of facilities and all that. All that only that goes on, right? In terms of now, what is coming up is like a rapid molecular testing available, all this thing. I was hearing things about these from some of the organizations, but were not very clear about it. So I think these are great opportunities to kind of to latch on to and kind of work towards.
Manmohan ji, I'd like to just make a comment here. One of the key things about this pandemic is that 44% of all cases are because of asymptomatic transmission. That means they do not know that they have been infected and they're going around infecting people. And they don't have any symptoms. So if you check their temperature, it is normal. If you check their symptoms, they're asymptomatic and they're still carrying the virus. And this is the reason why we are saying testing offers another layer of protection other than the vaccine till we get to the stage where we do not have the vaccine circulating in the community any further. Furthermore, what happens in the community can reach the workplace in no time. This we know, right? And what happens at the workplace can go back to the community as well. Okay, so both the risks and consequences are there for the workplace and the community. So this is the reason why we are advocating the swabs, jabs to retain the jobs.
Great, that's fantastic. And I would like to just ask one radical question over here. Many a times, in the white collar and, big offices, somebody gets symptoms, somebody complains, gives feedback. You say, okay, work from home. Don't worry. We are there for you. Your salary will not be cut. Don't worry. Please, it's very good. You are outspoken and you shared and you declared. But, a lot of times, drivers who are, out, or the people in the field, or, even people who are working in dealerships, where the management might not be that understanding, they fear that if they stay back home, they'll lose a day's salary. So out of that fear, they might not share that they are having some symptom. So that just, exacerbates the entire problem. And as Dr. Mohan shared, that 44% are asymptomatic. So in both the cases, if they can be, somehow they can be an encouragement and an open atmosphere that, hey, don't worry at all. You stay at home, even if your job is to be out on the road or in the field, you just stay at home for a day. And meanwhile, we get the testing done and everything. I think that will really make a huge difference because, where the rubber meets the road, at the ground level, in the dealerships, at our suppliers, vendors, drivers, they fear losing a day's salary. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
By and large, you could be right, but not in organizations like ORIX. So there's a huge emphasis on safety. I spoke about this empathy earlier. I think that is kind of driven from the top at all levels. So there's a huge amount of understanding that's afforded to the driver community and also the regular employees. So talking about deducting salaries, I think I mentioned as far as we are concerned, we actually gave salaries in advance. So, but I can understand, for drivers, there is no work from home. So then maybe in some areas, somewhere they work, besides I'm talking about ORIX here, there could be things like that happening.
Great, fantastic.
Anuj, just to tell you, means generally, I know there is a bad thing. HR guys are not that bad, by the way, and we are more responsible. Yes.
No, nothing against you,
no. I'll tell you this because we have seen a lot of efforts from the fraternity. We had been learning from each other, no doubts about it. Also, I must tell you, Anuj, one example, and I'll not mention. There was a big problem for one of the OEMs, right? And in this entire amidst, the thing happened, and we all are helping them to take care of the employees. So when in this ecosystem, what we see, especially the leaders like Manmohan, Ketan, and many more, we have ensured. See, otherwise, it is a funny disease, as Dr. Mohan was mentioning, right? If you don't declare it, like you keep it to yourself and go and spread to so many people, self-discipline is very important, right? And self-discipline only comes when there is a ease, when they know that their conduct will be penalized somewhere, or there will be something else which will be happening, then no one will go and tell you that I have a disease, right? So these things, they have to be comfortable, and trust plays a big role, right?
Trust.
If we are connecting and now physical things are happening and we don't declare it, don't be surprised what is happening in Europe will start happening here too.
True,
And
true.
of course, it is, as doctor was mentioning, the things is so deadly that it mutates and it takes turns, every now and then. But we people, as together with the help of such sessions, forums, have to educate many, who are there, that we create that this this group of people who are self disciplined and who take this trust forward, which is very important, right?
Yes,
And just to
sure.
couple of thoughts. One, thank you for this session. As Manmohan was saying that, and Sunil and Dr. Mohan, it was insightful. I had no idea that something like this is affordable and easily available. I think it will definitely be of interest. I loved when Dr. Mohan spoke about the line of defense. It raises a thought, right? That cheese thing, that example was pretty interesting. But I'm just leaving with a thought, and probably not related to RentoMojo, but coming from having seen a very large feet on street sales level organization in the rural part of India to a tech led organization. We are in a country where only 3.2% people are insured, right? We're talking about a country where people still don't wear seat belts or helmet, right? While we can do our job, but I think the larger ecosystem, and if I look at the Maslow's hierarchy, there's still the struggle for financial and getting daily wages is far more important. So, a lot of people, they don't want to stay home because they will go mad and they don't have infrastructure at home to even stay, right? That's the large spectrum of India. So the challenge is huge, massive, but thank you for such wonderful thoughts. It definitely raises a lot of thoughts with me, but not to ignore the 97% of India, where we still have to hammer people to get insurance or wear helmets or wear seat belts, right? That's the education and the impact that we need to create. But yeah, every journey starts with one single step.
Yes, so the relevance of this testing actually couldn't have been more than what it is right now. When, during Diwali, all the markets were flooded. And just after Diwali, we are asking the kids to, rejoin school. We're asking our employees to, get back to the offices. And as Dr. Mohan had mentioned, that 44% people are asymptomatic. So one is that I'm feeling symptoms. I report I'm feeling sick. I'll get myself tested. And my boss and everybody would be after my life. What is the result? But if I'm asymptomatic, I don't even know that I'm the carrier. And if there are those plastics and metal and everything in my organization on the assembly line. So I feel that, I know it's radical, it might have an expense, but at least for a month from now, when we're all joining back post Diwali, at least there should be a mandatory testing of the people, who are joining back, so that even if there is one person who tests asymptomatic positive, we are saving the rest of so many in our organization, at least for 1 month from now, after Diwali. That's what I feel. And that way I feel, we might just end up averting a third wave, when everything has just come out in the open and everybody is doing things as if nothing had happened. A mandatory molecular rapid testing, if it's possible, if the finances allow, on a daily basis or an alternate day basis, or random, I don't know, whatever the finances allow, it should be done in organizations, especially in manufacturing facilities and retail. Any thoughts on that?
So, Anuj, I would like to mention that apart from testing and vaccination, the containment and mitigation strategies have to be in place. I mean, I used to quip last year, please avoid men. When I say men, the mouth, eyes, and nose. Don't think chauvinistic at this point in time. I was just saying, avoiding touching the mouth, eyes, and nose is still required. Wearing the mask is still required. Cleaning the surfaces at the end of the work time is also important. So apart from the containment and mitigation strategies, this vaccination and testing adds another layer of protection. As I said, it's all about the likelihood versus consequence. Okay, yeah. Typical management issue. What is the likelihood? If the likelihood is high, the consequences are also high right now, if you look at it, right? So that's the whole concept of likelihood versus consequence and minimizing it It's a risk mitigation strategy.
Fair enough. So going back to my earlier question to Dr. Mohan and Mr. Mehra, if there are any use cases or best practices that you have with certain automotive companies where you have done these initiatives and you've got some quantified results, whether in active situation management or prevention.
Sunil?
Yeah, so Anuj, like I said, most of the work that we do with our customers are unfortunately confidential.
Confidential, yes.
So sharing that may be a bit of a concern. That's why I can share, at home what we do.
Okay.
So like I said, in Abbott, we do believe the best practice, Dr. Mohan shared it, testing vaccination continues. In fact, nearly 100% of our employees have at least got one dose of vaccination. Despite that, we do believe that testing it once a week is important, and we continue doing that. Our recommendation is always that, and specifically, like you said, in these times when people are getting back to work, it was more remote working, but a lot of organizations are now looking at, can we get a higher percentage, in some cases 100%, can we get them to work? So of course, sanitization, social distancing, wearing masks, everything remains important. Nothing of that goes away. That's the bare minimum. But we'd always recommend that testing once a week will help. So that's where. But unfortunately, sharing data information would be a bit of a violation.
Sure, no worries. One more question, whenever there is any case reported positive, at a facility, what are some best practices for, contact tracing? Because that immediately becomes a priority. How many more could there be? So if there are some, innovations, some tech-enabled initiatives, if you can please share on that.
Right. So the way this entire thing works is, like I said, it's a solution. So it comes with a digital package, so you can trace who's being tested at what frequency, what day of the week, etc. So we actually provide all of that. The quick thing to do if somebody's tested positive is very simple: isolate first of all, because the moment you isolate that individual, and it gets into discussions about where were you, whom did you meet in the last 72 hours, and so on and so forth, and accordingly the contact tracing is done. But from an organization perspective, we always recommend reports there with you, the results there with you in 15 minutes. Take your call, isolate quickly, specifically if the case is positive, because that's the first way to cut the transmission, and then that's what gets followed really.
I personally found as a best practice, it was tech enabled. It was being done at Hero Motor Corp and at Minda Group, because their CIOs themselves had shared at our forum what they had done last year. Though one can also counter argue it's at the cost of personal, information and privacy. But what they had done, they had they had installed apps in every employee's phone. It was mandatory, and that had the location services on. So it could always, corroborate the data of how many employees were together and for how long and in which area. So that they could use for contact tracing in case there was any infection reported. So if any one X person was reported positive, they could it was just a click away where entire report would come out in last these many hours or days, whom all he or she met at the organization's premises. Because once you enter the organization, you have to have that thing activated. So that I found as a really good way to contact trace immediately in real time.
No, I think that's a great suggestion, Anuj. So today, what we do offer is customized solutions. So depending on the number of employees in a certain location, a site, etc., we customize our digital solutions to cater to that requirement. Having said that, of course, we also have lots of other physical stuff given, screening bands, etc. So you can, from a distance, as if it's a pass to entry kind of thing, we make out that somebody in the premise definitely is tested and negative. Otherwise, you actually don't even enter the premise. So that's the way this thing is typically done as we work with organizations.
Great, stellar. So I think let's now begin with our ending remarks, our closing remarks, as the clock strikes 6:26. So we'd like to begin with Captain Saab. So your closing remarks on the discussion, sir.
Thank you, Anuj, and thanks a lot. Beautiful discussion we had. One thing I carry: how to explore this Mehra, sir. Of course, if there is some connection further to this, I'll be more than happy to take it there. A lot of learnings from Manmohan and Ketan. It was always a pleasure connecting. And Dr. Mohan, it was beautiful to listen to you, and I am really incited. It is completely the hell was behind my head. Thanks, God. Thank you.
Oh dear, what did I do? What did I do?
So several more fans added to the list, Dr. Mohan. Congratulations.
No, I'm just simply sharing what we know, what we do not know, and what we need to learn going forward, because the virus is doing the same.
True.
Without a central nervous system.
Without a spine, it knows it all.
It has taken 5.8 million deaths, 250 million cases. And look at the state of economy. I mean, just one virus with 30,000 pairs of nucleotides can host the world into a hostage situation for a year and a half.
True. Couldn't agree more. So, Manmohan, your closing remarks, please.
Yeah, Anuj, first of all, I think great to learn today a lot about what we learned from Dr. Mohan and Abbott, Sunil as well. But, as we say, the problems are changing and, the solutions also have to change. So it was great to learn today all those things. But in the closing, I would just say that, one is just trying to keep the employees safe. The other is now probably we haven't delved too much about what we could do about, in the new next normal, about how to build new kind of culture, which can drive business, right? And hopefully we can do it some other time as well. But I think just to kind of make a very brief remark there, from the HR standpoint, collaborations, rethinking flexibility of blended workforce, which is on-site and remote and all that, upskilling. There are a lot of new fronts to focus on now as we go forward. And returning to normality does not really mean that it'll be restoration of the old situation. That is not going to happen for sure. But it would just lead to an establishment of a new order. We're learning today about new things. So I think a lot to kind of do in the future now.
Really, I totally resonate with each and every word that you just mentioned. So, Ketan, your closing remarks, please.
So first of all, thank you so much. This is a panel where I probably the first time where doctors and the people side of the organization have come together. I never thought it would be that interesting, and thank you especially Dr. Manmohan for making it lighter and a lot of insights that you shared very simplistic way. So keeping that side, my very important takeaway was one, on the line of defense. Second, of course, if there are solutions which can make it easier, it opens up a very different perspective, because end of the day, it's all about convenience. If something is very convenient to me, my ability to adopt as an organization increases. At the closing, I know I keep on coming back to that, but while as organizations, we will continue doing a lot of things. This is again going back to the concept of seat belt. Now, my safety is first in my hand. So wear seat belt, like stay protected, take care of yourself first, right? Don't let your guard down. Just because you're wearing a seat belt doesn't mean that you will not die. It's just that you will keep yourself safe in case of something unusual that happens. So, and of course, like organizations, medical sciences will keep on coming with better versions of car which are far safer. Like that's what is going to happen to vaccines. So I think stay safe, individually take care, and yeah, I think as fraternity of people practitioners, we will keep on doing more along with medical practitioners to see how we can take it top down and make the world better. So that's what
that's fantastic. So that's well said, Ketan. The example of the seat belt that you've taken. So if the vaccination is like the seat belt, then the testing is like the pedestrian airbag. If you test yourself, you keep yourself safe as well as the other people around you. What Volvo had pioneered. By the way, both are Volvo's innovations. The seatbelt as well as the pedestrian airbag. So that's on safety. So fantastic. So Dr. Mohan, your closing remarks, please.
What I would like to say is the Center for Economic Policy and Research, they came up with an interesting publication just a couple of months ago. They said the health and economy do not need to be at loggerheads with each other. Testing softens the trade-off between health and economy and allows you to operate in your regular economic activity, at the same time assuring your people who are coming back to work that the workplace is safe. So I think this is the most important thing. Testing helps the trade-off between health and economy.
Well said, Dr. Mohan. So no wonder why we have all become your fans. Your one-liners are fantastic. Great. So, Mr. Mehra, your closing remarks, please.
Right. Again, I again like to thank Anuj for organizing this. I think it's been a session of great learning, first of all. In recent times, WHO actually said that India might be entering a stage of endemicity, right? Which perhaps would be good news. But experts still advise it's too early to let the guard down. We continue to take up precautions. The virus, like Dr. Mohan said, is thinking fast of all, and you could have no variants. We have a vast population in the country. So we continue to believe, I think, continue doing what we've been doing, the safety measures, masks, distancing, sanitization, aid facilities, and continue to vaccinate and test. I think that's the only message I'll have.
That's fantastic, Mr. Mehra. I think it's been a great conversation, great discussion. This has been our webinar number 24. But as Ketan rightly mentioned, first time we've got the HR heads, the corporate leaders with the doctors together. And I think it couldn't have been better. We've had sessions with only doctors too earlier, but getting both the worlds together, and I think it was pure magic. So thanks so much, and back to you, Kiran ma'am.
It has a very universal appeal. Just when India was congratulating itself and patting itself on the back that we vaccinated over 100 crore people, and we thought we were free, and we went into a euphoric state, celebrating some festivals, of all the communities and all cultures. You people have given us the hard truth that this is not the time to drop your guard. Like I've been told that this virus has got no nervous system and it doesn't have a brain, and it can take various forms and it can mutate and it can pop up in another form. And we just have to be careful. And this has hit me hard, that avoid men. As it is, I was steering clear of the conventional men. But now you tell me that it's mouth.
Oh my God, what did I do?
I mixed that tagline. And what I like most about this panel discussion was that this has a takeaway not just for the auto industry, but for every workplace, including our domestic help who comes home to help us with our house chores. I think we all have a lesson to learn. Well, let's brace ourselves for the coming times, and together we shall keep ourselves on our guard. I can't say that we can win against nature. Nature is invincible, but we'll try, no matter how adaptable we are. But somewhere we are quite infallible too. So thank you, gentlemen, once again for giving us your valuable time. This has been a splendid discussion.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would like to thank Mr. Jerry sir for organizing this beautiful conversation, and also our team, and so Kiran ma'am and also Kunal for designing all the creatives. And thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining and for sharing your precious knowledge. And looking forward to more of vaccinations and more of testing, and a much safer new and the next normal. Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.